Good morning, everyone. There's only one scenario where these year-end media availabilities are as happy as you'd like to be, as that's if you've won 4 rounds, and we didn't do that. I guess just to share my thoughts on the season, the playoffs. I think it was a really good regular season, 50 wins. We talked about that before, won the division. We had a good series with Minnesota against a real good team, and were able to come out on top there. We fell short against Edmonton, so it's disappointing to have our season end. I think that our team genuinely believed we had what it takes to win. I think when you build a team, you want to build a team that has a chance to win a Stanley Cup. I think this team did. I think there's probably a handful of teams in the NHL that can say that, and one of them will do that. So from that standpoint, it's disappointing because we fell short of what we anticipated that we would. In terms of next steps when the season ends, yesterday was the day that was spent entirely in exit meetings with the players. I think those meetings are really important for the player. I think they're really important for the coach and the manager. So that was a long day, a necessary day, an important day. And then we've got the amateur draft, which comes up at end of June, and then of course free agency. So this next 6-7 weeks is a really important time in the calendar of an NHL team. Just with respect to health updates, we did have some injuries through playoffs. Some of them were play issues, some of them were not. I've said to you many times, in fact I said it a lot more so the year we did win, a lot of things have to go right for your team to win. You have to be playing well at the right time. You have to have good health or be able to work your way through that. The year that we won, those things happened. I think this year in the playoffs we were banged up a bit, which changed line combinations, probably changed chemistry a little bit, where you'd like to have everybody in that groove. I look at Saad, Hurdle, Dorofeyev, I thought was a great line for us in the second half of the season after Brandon arrived from St. Louis. I thought they played really good hockey together. Pav was our top goal scorer and ended up missing some time, so that changes that line. Brandon Saad had an injury, so that changes that line even more so. I thought Victor Olofsson, Carly, and Riley Smith were likely our best line down the stretch. I thought they played extremely well, so now you have to change things up to make up for the players that are out of your lineup. So some of those things come into play, and everybody deals with it. These aren't excuses. These are just the realities of that fine line or that thin margin that sometimes separates winning from losing. We didn't score in the last 2 games. That's one of the questions that you guys are going to be waiting to ask. I didn't see it as a failure to generate scoring chances. I thought we had some opportunities in each game. I look at game 1, we're up 2-0, and had 2 great chances where we missed the net, and things like that happen. Game 5 is somebody's going to get that opportunity to score the 1 goal it was going to take to win. That was Edmonton. We lost 2 overtime games in the series. I don't know the historical data, but that's a really tough way to win a series when you lose twice in overtime. The flip side is in round 1 we won twice in overtime, which I think just puts you in that much better of a position. So again, these aren't excuses. We're not about that. It's just sort of sharing my thoughts on some of the things that come into play at this time of year. The games are competitive. The games are different. We all watch an 82-game regular season, not just our own team, but teams around the league, and it's just different when you get to the playoffs. That's something that we keep in mind when we build our team. You look at how hard it is to score, not just for our team, but just across the league at this time of year, with the commitment that teams make defensively, with the willingness to block shots, with the reduction in special teams generally that takes place in the Stanley Cup playoffs. All of those things play a hand in it. So I don't know that I would overreact to the fact that we didn't score enough goals. That's obviously an important part of the game, but we were a good offensive team all year. We were 5th in the NHL in goals scored, so I don't think that it was a chronic issue that you would have expected would be our demise or lead to our demise in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Player front, William Karlsson will join Team Sweden at the World Championships and represent his country there. It's in Sweden, so it's nice for William with his family. And Jonas Ronberg has gone across to play for Denmark, his home country. So 2 players that we have participating in the World Championships. So with that, I would open it up to your questions.
Okay. Kelly, you kind of just touched on it about obviously not being an issue with scoring. Bruce had mentioned that maybe when you get to the playoffs, it might be a little bit personnel driven. Looking at how the last 2 postseasons have ended, do you maybe see a little bit change in personnel to kind of make up for that in the playoffs, or do you believe in the personnel that you have that can build its way through it throughout the year?
Yeah, I do, Danny. I think that we have a good team. We have a good team, and when you don't win, it's because you didn't score enough. But we also work real hard to defend, and even in our series, we lost a game where we scored 4 goals. So I don't think that I think when you look at it, the last game, when you lose the last game that way, and the game previous, well, Game 4 in Edmonton, we didn't play well, and I didn't think that it was. There were bigger concerns for me in Game 4 that led to the fact we didn't score. Right, I didn't think that was a good game for us in the series. Game 5, I thought we played really well. So I think that when you look at it, on a specific night, if you didn't win, you didn't score enough, right? But I feel that the team was good enough to win.
Along those lines, when you're making decisions about weaknesses or strengths on the team, how much do you weigh a smaller sample size of the playoffs, which is obviously the more important games, over the bigger size of the regular season, because obviously they don't always match up?
Well, I think the playoffs are extremely important in evaluating your players and evaluating your team, but the point that I tried to make in my opening comments, there's a lot more to it than just taking the stat sheet at the end of the night and looking at it. There's a lot more to it as to who you can trust in playoffs, who understands what it takes in playoffs, who can handle it physically, who can get to interior ice, who will do what needs to be done at playoff time to win. So that's that evaluation, and we do a really thorough job across the NHL at playoff time of using that to complete our evaluations on players off other teams, right, that are playing. So it's really valuable, and yet you've got to get to the playoffs before you get through the playoffs. So I think you can't overlook players' performance over 82 games. It just changes again at playoff time, and that's what we love about it. That's what players play for, is the opportunity to play playoff hockey.
Kelly, 2 questions. Looking ahead to free agency, Nick Hague is a pending RFA. There's been a lot of talk around the league of offer sheets coming back into play. Are you anticipating that potential with Nick? And my second question is, as you look to build your roster for next season, as you look internally, where does Trevor Connolly fit in, given that he's got kind of a small sample size between Providence, his time with Team USA, and of course with the Silver Knights? Do you see him getting a full shot to make the Golden Knights roster out of training camp?
I'll speak to Nick Hague and your comment or your question on offer sheets. I think with the outcome of last summer's offer sheet between St. Louis and Edmonton, with as well as the 2 players played in St. Louis, it's certainly going to be a talking point around the NHL, I think not only by media, but also by front offices. You know, we've got time with Nick Hague. You know, I think our players want to play here, so I don't anticipate that being an issue, but I don't know that. You know, those are things that we'll be looking at in the next while also. And you know, will there be more of them? There could be. You know, you know, there's things that come into play. The cap is going up, so you know, that team that does get offer sheeted, like the one thing that gets overlooked is, you know, St. Louis successfully acquired Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway only because Edmonton chose not to match. So with the cap going up, it does, I think, and I'm not talking about Vegas and Nick Hague specifically, I'm talking in general terms. With the cap going up, you know, if that team wishes not to lose that player, he's probably got a little more flexible. A team probably has a little more flexibility to prevent that with some cap growth, right? And I think where offer sheets sometimes are successful is when there's a team that's, you know, the circumstances have to be there for an offer sheet to work. And you know, historically they rarely do, but because the last two did, it's definitely gained a lot of momentum in terms of the conversation. Oh, sorry, and with respect to Trevor, Trevor played really well in Henderson. We got, I think, 6 games that he played, and it was a great experience. He played, you know, at home, on the road, you know, back-to-back, traveling home from Bakersfield, things that you don't do in college hockey. So I thought it was a good experience for him. He played really well. My expectation is that he would be in Henderson next year. I think that's developmentally where he fits, but we're never going to tell a player that he can't come to training camp and make our team. He's got a special skill set. He does a lot of things that other players you know, don't naturally do. He's really worked hard physically. He's been in town here continuing to train. He's still in town training with our strength people. So I think that's going to be a really important part of the development piece for him is where he gets to physically this summer. And you know, we know what he looked like on draft day, and that's you know, that's part of what goes into drafting is the projection as to, you know, what a guy is going to look like size-wise, strength-wise, and how he'll continue to develop. But in terms of the talent, certainly it's there.
Kelly, I want to go back to, you mentioned Game 4, and you had maybe some concerns, you said, going into it. You come off this emotional win in Game 3. What do you make of how that unfolded? Where the team didn't really seem to have too much jump in their game.
No.
What do you make? Yeah.
Well, that's a great question, and yeah, it happens in the playoffs that you have that game that sort of leaves you shaking your head. And you know, if you remember 2 years ago, and it wasn't a 4-0 loss. 2 years ago, we lost Game 4 in Edmonton, and of the 2 games we ended up losing to Edmonton, Game 4 in 2023, I thought they really outplayed us that night when they won Game 4. If you remember Game 3, we won. Aiden came in for Laurent, and we won Game 3, and then Game 4, I thought they really outplayed us. The difference is we came home 2-2. The difference this time is we come home 3-1. And when I look at, you know, pivotal moments in the series, the Game 2 loss where we were down 3-1, we were down 4-2, we fight back, we tie the game. I think we're the better team going into overtime. I think we, you know, we're finishing the third period. I think we come into overtime playing really well. We get a major penalty, which it's almost unthinkable that you're going to kill an Edmonton Oiler major penalty in overtime. We do that, and then we have the missed call on Braden McNabb. So on a night where we had 2 power play goals, you know, for me, we've killed a major, we're going on the power play with a call on McNabb, and that outcome maybe is different, right? That really, you know, looking back at the series, that haunted us, right? Because then that Game 4 where you didn't play well, you know, just what I said, you're not coming home 2-2. You're coming home down down 3-1, and it's not impossible at 3-1. You have to go on 3-1 game winning streaks, right? And I thought our effort in game 5, I thought our preparation, I thought the coaches had the team very well prepared how we needed to play, and I thought we played really well in game 5. That's how I felt.
Carlson said after the game the other night, he feels like a wasted year because you guys didn't make a deep run. Is that just a byproduct, do you think, of how incredibly high you've set the bar here for?
Yeah, I think that's it's somewhat of a raw emotion answer. Clearly it's not a wasted year in any sense of the word, but it's a disappointment that we didn't get to where we wanted to get to. So I think when a player says that, or when I say that, for me it feels like a missed opportunity. That's more my take on it than I would never call it a wasted year. I don't feel it was anywhere near that. But to me, it was a missed opportunity because, as I said in my opening comments and a couple of times since, I felt our team was good enough to win.
Kelly, we saw the emergence of Pavel Dorofeyev become a legitimate goal scorer in the league. For a young guy like him who set the bar so high this year, 35 goals, how difficult is it going to be for him to not only maintain that, but exceed that? And what does he need to do in the offseason in order to be able to become a consistent 35, 40 goal scorer in the league?
Well, he's on a great trajectory. He's not going to surprise anybody next year. So people know who Pavel Dorofeyev is. So that's going to make it more challenging for him. The thing with Pav that I like a lot, I think he's still got a lot of room in his development curve to continue to improve. Physically, he's still a boy as opposed to what man strength is in the NHL. He's made tremendous progress that way. He's strong on his stick now. He takes pucks to inside ice. He's got an elite shot, and will he get 35 goals? Maybe he gets 30 goals. I'm not. I can't say what that'll look like. Maybe he gets 40. But he, it's going to be harder based on the fact that he's going to be a guy that teams, are careful who they put out on defense against him. They're going to check him tight, and that's just part of the challenge now for him. Really disappointing for him to miss time in the playoffs, because I think in terms of the overall growth of a player or a young player really benefits from time in those kind of games, and Pav missed Game 6 in Minnesota, Game 1 and Game 2 of the series against Edmonton. And then you're jumping back in, right, which is a little bit tougher to do, especially for a guy that's less experienced. So too bad that he didn't get the opportunity to have a full run at playoff time, but year over year, just tremendous growth in his game.
We've talked all year about the importance of getting the guys signed that you did throughout the year, so you can clean up a lot of your business going into July 1. Still have a lot of flexibility, I think, going into July 1. Do you envision using most of that to evaluate the guys that are already here, or do you envision maybe an upgrade somewhere in the lineup?
Well, it's really, I think, good for our organization and good for the players involved. The guys that we signed, I made a note of them before. It was, Theodore, McNabb, Howden, Colasar, and Hill, who I think are really important players on our team, and guys that we want to keep in the organization. We've got Tanner Pearson, Victor Olofsson, Riley Smith, Brandon Saad, Ilya Samsonov is expiring contracts on June 30th. So we'll work on those players first, make some decisions there, or have discussions with players and with agents of those guys to determine what the fit is to keep some of those players involved. I think there's a really good case to be made for a lot of those players. I think they played well here for us. So we'll make those decisions, and then depending how that goes, that's going to dictate to some extent what you do on the 1st of July with free agency. But we're going to do everything we can to make our team better in this next 6-7 weeks.
Can you share any specifics on any of the injuries that occurred? Were there any players that were injured that we didn't know about, and is anyone potentially not going to be healthy by next season?
We have no surgeries, which boy, we've had some in the past, right? So that is encouraging. I would say the injuries we had, probably Saad would have been a guy that would have missed the most time. Stone, we felt could have got back in the series potentially. McNabb for me was probably the guy I'm likely most injured of anybody, and I don't think I have to explain to you where he got hurt, what the injury was, but that's the type of warrior he is and the player he is. Yeah, we had a couple of guys that played hurt that are going to continue to get treatment here after the season, but not unexpected. I don't think at this time of year with the guys. With what happened at playoffs, and again, no one will have any off-season surgery. Zero issue in terms of availability for fall.
You confident getting a deal with Dumbajack?
Sorry?
Are you confident getting a deal done with Jack?
Well, certainly that'll be an important order of business for us, and the guy is a tremendous player. He's one of the top guys in the NHL, and he's got great character, great leadership. You see night in, night out what he does for our team. So that'll be a really important piece of business for us. And, we sure hope to keep Jack in our organization. Jack loves it here. So I would, hope that we can find common ground and keep him a Golden Knight.
Kelly, when you talk about expiring contracts and looking at the makeup of next year's roster, where does Henderson, any players pushing that you saw from this year, like a Kai Uchaz or a Braden Bowman that might fit the mold?
Some of the young players in Henderson I thought had really good second halves in particular. I think that's why that team got better in the second half. The young players kind of elevated the team, I thought. So, off seasons are big for the young player, right? What do they look like in camp? That for me is always one of the exciting things about training camp is what type of a step did a young player take, right? And that's, we talked about Dorofeev a little bit earlier. You could kind of see that from one year to the next year that he was making progress. The two guys you mentioned certainly have played well, but there's a handful of guys down there that now are, becoming third-year pros, and that's what our training camp and our preseason are going to be about, is seeing where those guys are at. Are some of them ready to stay and fight for NHL spots, or do they need more time?